It was the night before Christmas, a night that should have been filled with joy and anticipation. Our story unfolds in a quaint little town, all decked out for the festive season. The streets are lined with twinkling lights, and the air is filled with the sweet aroma of freshly baked gingerbread and hot cocoa. The townsfolk, bundled up in their warmest outfits, are bustling about, their faces glowing with holiday cheer. The children, their eyes sparkling with excitement, are busy writing their letters to Santa, their hearts filled with hopes and dreams for tomorrow's gifts. But amidst all the joy and celebration, something feels off. The weather outside is frightfully cold, even for a winter's night. A bone-chilling frost hangs in the air, the kind that gnaws at your skin and seeps into your very bones. The snow underfoot crunches a little too loudly, echoing eerily through the silent streets. The town, usually alive with the sounds of carolers and laughter, is now strangely quiet. The cheerful holiday music that once filled the air has been replaced with an ominous silence. The only sound that can be heard is the soft whisper of the wind, rustling through the bare trees and whistling down the empty alleyways. The townsfolk try to shake off the uneasy feeling, attributing it to the cold weather or the anticipation of the big day. But deep down, they know something isn't right. There's a sense of dread that lingers in the air, a feeling of impending doom that they can't quite put their finger on. The town's clock tower, standing tall and proud in the town square, begins to chime, its bell tolling loudly in the silent night. Once, twice, thrice, until it finally strikes 12. As the final chime echoes across the town, a chilling wind sweeps through the streets, causing the townsfolk to shiver and pull their coats tighter around them. As the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind swept across the town, and the night was filled with an ominous silence. In the heart of the town, Santa was preparing for his annual duty of spreading joy. There he was, nestled in his workshop, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of his devoted elves, packing gifts with a mirth that only comes from the spirit of giving. The air was thick with anticipation, the sweet scent of candy canes and the comforting aroma of hot chocolate wafting through the room. But then, a chill descended upon the room, as sudden as a winter storm. Santa, in the midst of his merry work, felt a strange sensation. It was as if an icy hand had reached out and gripped his heart. A shiver ran down his spine, a feeling of dread that was foreign to his jolly nature. His laughter, once warm and infectious, faltered, replaced by an uneasy silence. His eyes, previously twinkling with joy, now turned a terrifying shade of red, burning like twin coals in the dim light of the workshop. His hearty chuckles morphed into a low growl, a sound so sinister it could curdle milk. His rosy cheeks drained of their color, his skin as pale as the driven snow. The elves, who only moments ago were engaged in their cheerful duties, now stood frozen in horror. They watched as their beloved Santa, the embodiment of joy and goodwill, transformed before their very eyes. The workshop, once filled with the warmth of Christmas spirit, now seemed as cold as the North Pole itself. The silence was shattered by a sound that sent chills down their spines. It was the sound of Santa's laughter, but it was a far cry from the jovial ho-ho-ho they had come to know and love. It was a chilling, eerie echo that filled the room, bouncing off the walls and leaving a feeling of dread in its wake. The once jolly Santa was now a terrifying figure, his laughter echoing eerily in the silent night. This was no longer the Santa they knew, but a haunting specter of the man they once loved and admired. As the haunting laughter faded into the silence of the night, one thing was clear. Christmas would never be the same again. With a blood-curdling scream, Santa stormed out of his workshop, hopping onto his sleigh. The night air, once crisp and serene, now shivered with an unspoken dread. Santa, a figure of joy and merriment, had been twisted into a specter of fear. His laughter, once hearty and warm, now echoed through the frosty air like a banshee's wail. The reindeers, sensing the malevolent change in their master, took off into the night sky with a speed they had never shown before. Their eyes, wide with fear, reflected the moonlight as they darted through the inky darkness. Each beat of their hooves against the cold air seemed to echo the frantic rhythm of their terrified hearts. Santa's first stop was a quaint little house nestled at the edge of a snow-dusted forest. There was no jingle of bells, no rustling of gift wrap, no soft padding of boots against the carpet. Instead, there was only the chill of the wind as it whistled through the open window, carrying with it the stench of fear. From house to house, the story repeated itself. Santa's once jovial visits had turned into episodes of pure terror. The Christmas stockings hung by the chimney with care now served as grim reminders of the twisted nightmare that Christmas Eve had become. The milk and cookies left out for Santa remained untouched, their sweetness tainted by the bitter taste of fear. Children, once eager to catch a glimpse of Santa, now huddled under their blankets, their wide eyes staring into the darkness. Parents, once relieved to have a moment's respite, now paced the floors, their hearts heavy with dread. And all the while, Santa continued his unholy journey, his laughter echoing through the night like a chilling lullaby. As he disappeared into the distance, the once peaceful snowfall seemed to shudder with fear. The twinkling Christmas lights, once symbols of joy and hope, now flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows against the snow. The silent night was now filled with screams of terror as Santa continued his unholy sleigh ride. As dawn broke, the once cheerful town was now a scene of horror and despair. The jubilant Yuletide spirit that had filled the air was replaced with an eerie silence. The town, usually alive with the sound of laughter and carols, was now eerily quiet, save for the whispers of the townsfolk, their voices filled with fear and uncertainty. The Christmas decorations that once brought joy and anticipation now served as a grim reminder of the night's terrifying events. The twinkling lights and colorful ornaments were stark contrast to the grim reality that had unfolded. The once much-awaited Santa, the bearer of gifts and happiness, had become a harbinger of death and fear. He was now the specter that haunted their dreams, and the subject of their nightmares. In the town square, people huddled together, their faces etched with worry and confusion. The festive cheer had been replaced with a chilling dread. The townsfolk, once brimming with holiday spirit, now bore the weight of the night's horrors. They gathered to discuss the events, their voices barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would invoke the demonic Santa. There were questions, so many questions. How had this happened? Why had their beloved Santa turned into a creature of terror? And more importantly, how could they stop him? The townsfolk shared their experiences, their theories, and their fears. Each tale more chilling than the last, each theory more horrifying. But amidst the fear and confusion, there was a spark of determination, a resolve to reclaim their town, their Christmas, and their Santa. They would not let this demon tarnish their traditions, their joy, their holiday. They would stand against this terror. They would fight back. They had to, for the sake of their town, their families, and their beloved Santa. With determination in their eyes, the townspeople vowed to save their beloved Santa and stop this terror. They would not let their Christmas be consumed by fear. They would reclaim their joy, their peace, and their Santa. The town's struggle had just begun. As the townspeople rallied together, there was a sudden, deafening silence. The once bustling streets were now empty, the air thick with tension and uncertainty. The townsfolk, their hearts pounding in their chests, found courage in their unity. They picked up whatever makeshift weapons they could find. Broomsticks, fireplace pokers, even old, rusty tools from the shed. Every hand held something, anything, that could be used to protect their homes and their loved ones from the terror that had descended upon them. The journey towards Santa's workshop was a long, treacherous one. The once jovial path, adorned with twinkling lights and festive decorations, now seemed menacing under the shadow of the moon. The snow crunched under their boots, the only sound breaking the eerie silence of the night. Their breaths hitched as they heard it. The sound that had once filled their hearts with joy now sent chills down their spines. It was Santa's laughter, deep and resonant, echoing through the silent night. But this was no jolly chuckle. It was a sound twisted by the demonic spirit, a sound that spelled doom. Their steps faltered, their hearts pounded louder, but they pressed on, their resolve hardened. They had to save their town, their Christmas, from the clutches of this unholy terror. The workshop, once a source of joy and cheer, now loomed ominously ahead. Its usually welcoming lights flickered menacingly, casting long, eerie shadows that danced in the moonlight. They gathered their courage, took a deep breath, and flung open the doors. The sight that met their eyes was beyond anything they could have ever imagined. Their hearts froze, their breaths hitched, their eyes widened in sheer terror. As they flung open the doors to the workshop, their eyes widened in terror. What they saw was something they could never have prepared for. The scene was set for a showdown unlike any other. The final confrontation between the townsfolk and the haunted Santa was about to begin. But that, dear listeners, is a tale for another time.